Hello and welcome back to Serie A Spotlight. We're your hosts Jake and Matt.
You know what time it is!
I can't tell you guys enough how much you've been my internal monologue when thinking about football for the last year.
Yes! Amazing!
We get to record while drinking some wine.
Jake and I will have a very special soft spot for Salernitana.
we love him.
We love him.
Stop zooming in on Allegri's face, bro. You're gonna make
How are
me
you
break.
exposing me?
Because you're gonna make me break, man. What is up, my dweebs, and welcome back to another episode of Serie A Spotlight. This is episode number 162, and we're your hosts, Matt
And Jake.
and we found it appropriate to call this episode What the Hell is Going On?
And we're not referring to Matthew's opening line in this episode, of course, but we are talking about the events of this particular match day in Serie A, which just got crazier and crazier. Of course, on Friday, bro, we had potentially the most chaotic event of them all.
Yes.
With Lorenzo Lucca, of course, our baby. And in fact, speaking of, our goal of the week goes to Lorenzo Lucca. As you know, our regular listeners would know that we love Lorenzo Lucca over here, and we've been ringing that Lucca bell for the past, how long now, bro? How many seasons has it been?
Well, it's been 3 seasons. I would
Definitely.
say.
And unfortunately, he's made international recognition for all the wrong reasons, as he died on the hill that he would rather take the penalty. Of course, we'll discuss this in more detail later on in this episode, because there are more reasons as to why we chose to name this episode What the Hell is Going On. The second reason, bro, is Gasperini, right? He stated that he will not be continuing as the Atalanta manager until 2026. And he played Lookman as if nothing happened, and Lookman had an incredible game.
Yeah. Also, so his contract is until June 2026, which means that technically he'd have another season left on his contract. But he actually said we'll have to see what's going to happen at the end of this season, whether or not I'll continue. So it could be he doesn't go past the end of this season, and to be honest, that's what it's kind of looking like, although it's not new that we see a situation like this taking place with Gasperini. Keep in mind, this is the guy that froze out a certain Papu Gomez, who was everything for Atalanta back then.
Exactly, yes. And not to mention that he was quite close to, he was quite tempted rather by Napoli's offer prior to the start of this season and prior to them hiring Antonio Conte. What the hell is going on? That Thiaw own goal. What the hell is going on? That Rrahmani own goal. What the hell is going on? That Zappa Costa trip that kind of took a deflection off Jazzy, right?
But that wasn't that
wasn't
bad
as
in comparison
crazy,
to Rrahmani and Thiaw. But by the way, it sucks that we have to call it Thiaw's own goal.
Yes, it does
because
suck.
it was all Manyan's fault. Every single part of it. I can't believe there are people saying that it's Thiaw's fault for shielding the ball for the keeper to safely pick it up, but the keeper ran out of his box and shot it into the centre back. Ridiculous. That's the biggest what the fuck in my opinion.
Absolutely, but even Rrahmani, not looking up before hoofing it to your keeper so confidently, bro.
No look pass back to your keeper, and the head was all the way out of
He
position.
sprinted full speed, he still couldn't catch it, he still couldn't get it. Yeah, another what the hell is going on, of course, Kean collapsed on the pitch. This one isn't funny at all. No, this is serious. I mean, Fiorentina of all fucking teams should know not to let a player with a head injury go back onto the pitch.
It's schoolboy stuff, and you'd think of all teams, Fiorentina would have learned their lesson of having devastating things happen on the pitch. Simply, I think they showed us that they are that they're unserious. I think not looking after your player in that sense. A player could be begging me, please, let me go on. There are people that have had traumatic injuries because they had a concussion, didn't realize, and then they get another injury and something devastating happens to them. That is something that is to be treated immediately.
And if you say, he told us he wanted to continue, he might be concussed. You're going to listen to him? You know what I mean?
He
might be his eye.
His face. You put him on the pitch, you're crazy. But you know why they put him on a pitch? Because of what I've been saying. they didn't sign someone adequate to replace him if should he go off injured. Because they played Zaniolo Punta the last time that happened. How good.
Yeah. Absolutely, bro. Bologna lost to Parma. What the hell is going on? Milan lost to Torino. What the hell is going on? Fiorentina lost to Verona. What the hell is going on? And Venezia held Lazio at home to a 0-0 score. What the hell is going on?
Absolute chaos.
Well, guess what? We're going to tell you.
We're going to tell you exactly. To be fair, the Milan one's not that crazy considering that Torino at home, I think they went unbeaten in the last 11 out of 12 at home to Milan, which is absolute mayhem.
Bit of a purple patch there for them.
Absolutely. But let's jump into the goal of the week before we start discussing all of these crazy events.
So our goal of the week.
You're forgetting who we went for.
No, it's Salamakers against Monza. That was the goal of the week. Because there were quite a few nice goals actually. Amidst the chaos, none stood out as spectacular, but there were some good ones. For example, Gneitis against Milan, the quick free kick. While Lucha was complaining, for him to just tap it in perfectly first touch was a really good finish. Lookman against Empoli scored some good goals, rounding the keeper. Zappa Costa against Empoli cut inside and drove a low and accurate, well-placed shot into past the keeper. And then Vlahovic as well against Cagliari rounded the keeper and finished neatly.
There's also been this week in the what the hell is going on kind of week. We've also seen, whilst there's been all this chaos around Lookman, for example, and there's also chaos around Vlahovic because he wants out at the end of the season. He's not getting any playing time now. He hasn't started in the last 8 games of Juve. Well, he started this one. We're just seeing Vlahovic and Lookman really show us what it's like to be a true professional. From Lookman's statement all the way to this match, he hasn't put a foot wrong, basically. And Vlahovic, it's not simply that he started and he scored and he's not complaining, but just he's on the bench encouraging everyone. He's hugging Motta. He's showing that he's a true team player. It's not going his way, but he's always ready to give it his all, and he's constantly giving it his all. He's in the situation and he's encouraging everyone to get the best out of the team.
On the other hand, of course, just to play the devil's advocate a little bit, his salary is the highest in the league.
That doesn't buy a good attitude,
It doesn't. However, he's probably got it in mind that Juve will probably try their very best to keep Colomwani, and he will have to find a new club, and he has to make sure that his image is good enough for a top team to go after.
Fair enough. To be fair, I've never seen any negative, a lot of negative things from Vlahovic when it comes to character, personality.
It's the body language on the pitch sometimes when he's frustrated, of course.
Especially when he plays for Serbia, but that's a different,
totally different story that needs a different podcast entirely. I believe if we're going to talk about the Serbian national team, which, by the way, would love to.
Bro,
love Serbia.
Absolutely. We support them in every competition, even though now I think we might be supporting Romania after our holiday and after all the talent.
Lovely people.
What the hell is going on?
New patron.
I was going to say new segment, but let's start with the patron.
Welcome, Adam Kauser.
What a guy. Adam fucking Kauser.
Welcome. You've finally done it.
Yes, we love our patrons and we love you, Adam. Welcome to the family. Thank you very much. All this is possible thanks to you guys. And don't worry, we'll be praising you very, very soon. But in the meantime, we're introducing a brand new segment for Serie A Spotlight. We've teamed up with a sports journalist and a tactical analyst, Gian Ilya, to introduce a new weekly segment. So we will be having 2 weekly episodes from now on.
Our potentially bi-weekly, time-dependent.
We're working with a human being with a full-time job, naturally. But this person is very, very, very talented when it comes to analyzing tactically. He has an incredible eye for it. He's a fantastic writer and a great speaker as well. In fact, we will have him on both our new website, writing articles with an audio version available as well, but also a new around 5-minute, 6-minute weekly episode or bi-weekly episode where he himself will handpick a game or a team or a player that stood out to him and he will speak all about it. This week, he talks to us about Como, and we will be uploading this episode today, so keep an eye out and listen to him. We are so excited for this, and it's just great to be collaborating with someone like Gian Ilya for something like this.
Absolutely, yes. Gentle reminder, just to remind those who do not listen regularly that our website has not been released yet and is under construction. You can still access our current website.
SerieAspotlight.com.
Exactly, it's still very much up there. However, we're having a more professional one made right now because this is a website that I built and I have no bloody idea how I did it. I was just in full locked in flow state, bro, like following YouTube videos and it's not the best, but it was alright for the beginning.
It gets the job done, but we're leveling up. This is our fourth year now. We're heading into
very
our fifth
excited
year.
to see a proper
Same
website.
man, same.
Very excited.
And I will extend this call, not to take the limelight away from John, who deserves the limelight right now. But if any of you want to collaborate in some way whatsoever, if you guys have something to say and you'd like a segment or you'd like to write on our brand new website, that is something that I really want to do. If you want to get your name out there in Serie A, we're followed worldwide in all the different continents. If you really want to get your name out there as a sports writer, look no further. Write on SerieAspotlight.com. We would absolutely love to collaborate with you. Obviously, I'm speaking about it as though we're giving you an opportunity, but you'd be helping us a hell of a lot to keep our website. Exactly. To keep our website nice and fresh.
Yes,
but
you give us content, we give you a platform.
Exactly.
Just reach out in our DMs, guys. They're always open.
Absolutely. Or send us an email. Don't send us an email.
Yeah.
Be cool. If you guys are new here, do drop us a follow on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and subscribe to us on YouTube. We're absolutely everywhere, and we are growing on each platform thanks to you guys. Rate us 5 stars wherever you get your podcast, be it Apple, Spotify, or Google, or wherever, to be honest. I don't know why I always keep saying the same 3. And if you really like us, feel free to become a patron of ours. It's $3.99 a month. Everything gets reinvested back into the podcast and even sometimes back to you guys. We do have a fantasy league where number 1 place will be taking home a free kit. If we can't get you the free kit, if we can't mail it to you because you live in, I don't know, Jamaica and we can't send it to Jamaica, we'll send you the money via Revolut and we can just sort it out that way.
Wait, aren't you guys from Jamaica?
So a lot of people, well, we had one once, now we got one again recently asking if we're from the Caribbean, right?
Yeah.
Thank you. I find those people very cool. So we appreciate that.
We are Maltese, an island right below Sicily.
Exactly.
Yes, in first place right now, leading the line for many weeks in a row now is Joey D with all Fabregas, no breaks.
Yes, sir. Joey Dick.
Looks like Joey D is going to be getting that kit, but he's closely followed by Tanino Batman Choco Loco.
Yo, Tanino.
And Alan in third place as the dark horse.
Where's
Pieter?
Sixth. Wow, how the mighty have fallen, Pieter.
And Juan Boner, Campbell, happy birthday, Campbell.
Happy birthday,
is
Campbell.
In 7th, yes.
It's my birthday on Thursday as Milan play the game in hand against Bologna. What fun. I also ran a half marathon 2 days ago. Okay.
Couldn't quite do a full one, could you?
Not yet. But I've only been training for 5 months. But I am wearing an Australia kit, by the way, for all of our Australian patrons. I've heard you guys have been having some trouble accessing the league, if you do it legally, obviously. So this is solidarity with Australia.
And our boy David.
And we've got a lot more than just David.
Just the first one that comes to mind. You know, David he's always up at like 4 a.m.
What a guy. But anyway, I think that's it for all the formalities, right? I think we could jump straight into the show. So overall, this has been a week of upsets as Como beat Napoli, meaning Inter are now first by 1 point as they scraped past Genoa. Took a really dodgy goal for them to get past Vieira's formidable side. At the moment, they are quite formidable. Venezia held Lazio to a 0-0 draw, and Juve scraped past Cagliari, so Juve are still in 4th in the Champions League spaces. Torino beat Milan 2-1. It was a dodgy error by Mike Maignan hoofing the ball into Thiaw, which went into the back of the net, and then a quick free kick exposing Milan's lack of alertness that got them the winner over there. Verona beat Fiorentina 1-0 after Kean had to be subbed out due to, I think, a concussion. I think it must have been a concussion. And Parma, on Chivu's debut, got past Bologna with the score of 2-0. But before we get into all of these, because there's a lot to talk about over here, let's take a look at the European competitions, because there's a lot to talk about over there. Well, we'll go through it because we're Serie A spotlight, but the news is all about Milan, Juve and Atalanta crashing out of the Champions League. Milan drew 1-1 to Feyenoord, where Santi Jimenez scored in the first minute, but Thiaw threw away the match after a red card for diving in the 51st minute. His second yellow. His first yellow was potentially even stupider, where he brought down a player at the center of the pitch by pulling his shirt. There was no threat on whatsoever. Atalanta crashed out to Club Bruges after they rested their entire team against Cagliari, drew 0-0, went out to Bruges and lost 3-1. They absolutely shocked Atalanta. That's where Lookman missed his penalty and the whole drama with Gasperini ensued. And PSV beat Juve 3-1, a disaster from Juve, who controlled the first half. It's always, whenever we talk about Juve, we talk about how it's a game of two halves. And once again, it was over here in the first half, they didn't concede a single shot on target. And in the second half, they just threw away the game completely, losing 3-1.
A recurring theme, huh? A recurring theme with Juve this season, at least lately. What I've come to realize in this new Champions League format is that top 8 is vital. This playoff game is extremely difficult because you're coming against a team that is easy to kind of take for granted, to undermine, to underestimate. And yet that particular team that you're up against will have a crazy winning mentality because domestically in their league, they are the winners. They're the equivalent sometimes of Manchester City in the Premier League or Juve when they had that dominant spell in Serie A 9 in a row. You know, you often come against these teams and these guys, this would be the game of their season. Some of the players would be the game of their career, you know. And you have to play it across two legs. The fans would really show up in their stadium, as we saw in the Feyenoord game against Milan. Milan were shell-shocked, in that stadium. It was so intimate and the fans were so loud. PSV also produced an excellent vibe against
even
Atalanta.
Bruges. I think it's worth mentioning, just because you said that these are typically dominant teams domestically. Feyenoord actually are not. It was a shock that
this season.
It was a shock that they won the league last year because obviously it's typically Ajax that tend to do well over there. But last season Feyenoord produced quite a shock. And they also had 10 injuries. So they had just lost Santi Jimenez and they had just sacked their coach. In fact, this new coach went undefeated to Milan for just being employed for 1.5 weeks, which is absolutely crazy. It's like that Conceição immediate effect kind of thing. So it's not always the case. I think it is quite embarrassing that some of our Serie A teams crashed out in this competition. You look at Atalanta. Now, of course, Bruges are a great team, but Atalanta, who won the Europa League last season, who've got players like CDK, Retegui, Lookman, my God, what a team, etc., etc. At Gasperini's system, man for man, it's so hard to play against these teams, blah, blah, blah. Juve, of course, against PSV, it's a winnable fixture as well. I think it is quite embarrassing. How devastating is it that the only team left in the Champions League for Italy is Inter?
I mean, it happens, I mean, this has been an opportunity for, I don't want to say just Premier League fans, let's call it the mainstream media, right? The anti-Italian football mainstream media. Because that's what it is, man. Sometimes these posts I see and these bloody, what's it called, that tabloid newspaper in the UK.
The Telegraph, which one?
I can't remember. I'm sure our listeners are now screaming it out. But whatever.
Well, there's CBS and all these that do tend to shit on Italian football quite a lot.
This is the perfect moment for them to really start taking jabs at Italy and what a poorly run league it is and how the quality isn't up to standard, etc., etc. While the league is poorly run, and we are often joking about that, it's not. This isn't. It does not define the quality of the league because the league recently has had nine spots in European football for the past 2 seasons. You know, and I didn't see anyone saying, the Serie A is one of the best leagues in the world. It's a great league because of all these teams doing so well. We had Serie A teams in each final, you know, recently. So I think it's being blown up. It's being sensationalized and all this, you know. Of course, I am a firm believer that Serie A teams will cause problems to teams from any league.
Yeah.
And this whole thing of the quality in Serie A isn't good enough. You need 18 teams in the league.
No,
I was
up.
taking a look at the Premier League. You know how many points the team that's lost has? Like we think Monza are bad. Look at this.
Who
Let
is
me
even
just pull
lost?
it
It's
up.
Southampton.
Yes, Southampton. They have 9 points. Does the Premier League need to be cut down to 18 teams?
No, and I don't, to be honest, I think it's a stupid argument to make that it should be 18 teams. I don't think it encourages any sort of difference. Now, maybe I'm not too well versed on the benefits of it, but I don't think there's any reason to be sensationalist. I think, like you said, over the past few seasons,
it's a bad year.
We've seen, a Milan-Inter semi-final, and before that it was Napoli that Milan faced in the quarter-final. There would have been the possibility, and there have been many years, where it was three Premier League teams in the semi-finals, where you're guaranteed at least one team, one Premier League team in the final. A lot of it is down to the fixture as well, because that season it could have been the exact same thing, right?
Yeah.
3 Italian teams in the semi-finals, and in the Conference League there was Fiorentina in the final, and Atalanta beat Bayern, never losing in the Europa League final. So it is disappointing, absolutely. It sucks because those disappointing performances as well, and you hate to see it. Keep in mind that there's a lot of transitions in these teams as well, a lot of change. Milan are no longer Pioli, Juve are no longer Allegri. There's a lot of change going on. So these are all growing pains
Young
at the end of the
coaches,
day. Young coaches,
you know,
as well.
and plus, I mean, the whole TV rights thing is a massive thing. I mean, they don't have the financial strength to compete with these
They
teams.
don't own
However,
their stadiums, though.
Exactly. There are many internal problems, but one thing you cannot criticize is the coaching and the quality of these teams, the tactical approach that many of these teams take, man. You know, the fact that you have teams like Cagliari causing problems to so many of the top Serie A teams
Atalanta,
on a weekly
Milan,
basis.
Juve.
Yeah. It's fine. We love this league, and we believe it's a strong league. But
I don't
let the
think
media
it's-
have their moment. I
Yeah,
guess.
let them. This has happened with Spanish teams. It's happened with German teams. It's happened with English teams. It's our turn. I think it was about time, because we've been dominating over the past few seasons. The coefficient is always in our favor. Now this year, unfortunately, probably you need 4th spot to get Champions League, which sucks for us as Milan fans. But there's also opportunity within the Europa League, where there is the potential of a Roma-Lazio final, but Roma were drawn Athletic Club, who are 6 points off top spot in La Liga, and they are very, very, very fucking solid. They're very dangerous, and I don't know too much about them, but I caught a glimpse of them the other day, and I was very impressed with what they were doing.
Dilly ding, dilly dong, bro.
Dilly ding, dilly fucking dong, man. Here we fucking go. Roma, who beat Porto 3-2, the Dybala show. It looked like Dybala was going to be out injured for this, but he came back and he looked quality. 32 years young, Paulo Dybala. He will always be the young, talented La Gioia.
La Jolla.
What an absolute show that was. And they were up 3-1, I believe, until the last minute of additional time. They now face Athletic Bilbao, as I said, and Lazio now face Victoria Pilsen. Of course, they didn't have to play one of these playoff matches because they topped the group. And like I said, opposite ends of the spectrum. Bro, if there's a Roma-Lazio final, we're there, huh?
That would be mental.
That would be crazy, man.
Crazy.
Absolutely.
I would love to go to that.
And the final is in... Is it in Spain? I think it's in Spain.
I don't know where it is.
I think it has Athletic Bilbao written all over it. I believe it might be in Bilbao. I'm just going to check that literally because I'm considering Europa League final venue. Where are you?
Oh, so
yes, San
out.
Mamés.
Yes?
San Mamés
San Mummies.
in Bilbao.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. We'll definitely look into that if that's the case. Shout out to Weah, what a goal he scored.
Yes, as well.
Crazy goal. Shout out to Theo, well done, good job. At least Milan have learned, right, from these individual errors.
Madonna, man. Madonna. Too many individual errors.
Too many.
Just to mention the entire spectrum in the Conference League, Fiorentina will also face Panathinaikos.
Excellent.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Shall we get cracking with Serie A, brother?
Fuck this European shit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's
100%.
jump in to Serie A, the reason we're all here. I think the biggest news of this week is that for the first time in ages, we have a new league leader. And that is Inter. They went top by 1 point after they beat Genoa marginally. Napoli dropped to second place as they lost to Como, amassing 4 winless games in a row. That's 3 draws and 1 loss. Como, super, super impressive. What a way to perform in this really tough spell of fixtures for them. Atalanta smashed Empoli and are now just 3 points behind first place, but they do have a super tough run-in, bro. They pretty much in a row play all of the top 6 teams aside from themselves. It's crazy the run-in that they have now, Atalanta, but it's only one competition. This is the most open league we've had in years,
And
bro. In years.
the bad news of all these teams being knocked out of European competitions goes to Napoli, I think.
Absolutely.
Because now all of a sudden the playing field is leveled.
Yes.
And they've just lost Anguissa, who they rested, or rotated rather, in their last game in order to protect him, because the next game is so crucial, I believe, against Inter, right?
Saturday,
Exactly.
6 p.m. Napoli Inter.
They ended up
Huge.
bringing him in because they needed him, and now it's just been announced that he suffered a muscle injury and that he will be back after the international break. A massive blow for Napoli.
A huge blow. A
massive,
huge blow.
massive.
They started Billing, who, to be fair, didn't look out of sorts.
He was alright, I think.
He fit in
Yeah.
quite well. Of course, he has huge shoes to fill over there. But it is quite a significant down. Considering the season Anguissa is having, of course, it is very, very disappointing. I just want to find, because obviously with Napoli and Inter going head to head, Saturday 6 p.m, be there or be fucking square, man. Atalanta are gonna be rubbing their hands together because a draw is gonna get them so close. And their actual next game is against Venezia. After that, their fixtures, just to get this one out of the way, is away to Juve, home to Inter, away to Fiorentina, home to Lazio, home to Bologna, away to Milan.
Make or break for Atalanta. Fortunately,
Absolutely.
they don't need to worry about European competition, I guess, now.
Yeah.
It can be said.
Yeah.
Because injuries have affected them quite negatively, and there has been quite a bit of unrest in their camp, which isn't something we often associate with Atalanta. However, they do look like they're past it, because they delivered an absolute battering at the weekend, and Lookman seemed to be himself, and if not more than himself, because he was excellent.
Driven. He
in
was
that
so
game.
driven, man.
Absolutely incredible. So just to go over how these games went, perhaps, let's start off by taking a look at Inter, right?
Inter won Genoa 1-0. We'll
So,
start from
yes,
there. The
we
game
might
that
as
put
well.
them top.
So this was a very difficult game for Inter, and they needed a set piece to actually get them over the line, because they struggled to create clear-cut chances, because Genoa were just super well organized, and it took Çalhanoğlu whipping in a corner and Lautaro deflecting the ball, and I believe it did take a deflection.
Yeah, it did.
And you can tell just how hard fought it was from Lautaro's celebrations, because he celebrated that so intensely. This was another game which saw Çalhanoğlu rested and Aslani trying to dictate the tempo in midfield. However, of course, Inter lacked fluidity after that. I don't know about you, bro, but this Aslani thing is just getting worse and worse.
Yeah.
Almost it's
He
he can't do the job
I think
in this system.
I think now it's also a mindset. I think Aslani is a very gifted player, but I think just the way things have gone for him at Inter so far, he's not the preferred option by any means. Actually, I think they're kind of doing everything not to play him in this game. It was different, but unfortunately, he keeps showing us the same thing, that he doesn't. He's simply not fluid enough as a footballer to be the number 6 of Inter. Because to be the number 6 of Inter, you need to have a certain like Brozovic and Çalhanoğlu fit that mold so much better than someone like Asllani. But I think he has it in his locker. It's just this current patch that he finds himself in is quite detrimental, and I think he'll get pushed out, man.
It's more his simply his defensive work rate, and he is much better in a team that plays the ball sideways, that plays more indirectly. I'm talking like an Italiano team, a 4-3-3 team in a way, more than a direct, because at the end of the day, Inter are a counter-attacking weapon.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they are. And Asllani doesn't quite fit that mold.
It's true.
You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
I was very impressed by Pavard this game. I thought he had an excellent
What a game.
He had a
He
really
even
good game.
tried an overhead kick at that point.
And Leali, of course, was great, wearing the Genoa home kit, looking like a supporter, as you said.
He literally looked like a supporter, bro.
They looked like me in a kit. He looked like me in a Genoa.
Literally, bro.
Yeah, Barella smacked the crossbar from a distance at the point.
That was
very, very close.
But
it was a grind for Inter, and eventually they managed to get it over, to get it over the line. As Genoa, of course, leave quite a lot to be desired going forward as well. You know, they're playing Miretti on the wing.
But I don't even think it's that. I think Genoa gave Inter such a tough time over here.
The plan was to disrupt them more than anything.
Absolutely. And I think Genoa made things very difficult for Inter. I think Inter, at the moment also, they find themselves in a bit of a sluggish spell. They're nowhere near the team that we're used to seeing in the past couple of seasons. They're nowhere near their best. They've got key pieces which are out of sorts at the moment. You look at the likes of Di Marco, Lautaro, funny enough, scored the goal. Thuram in and out with injuries at the moment. Barella, who we've even seen not performing at his best, and their best players are coming with the likes of Dumfries and Pavard at the moment, for example.
Acerbi was tight in this game as well,
to be fair. But you got, for example, they played Correa up front, and he offered absolutely nothing.
He disrupted Martinez on a few occasions.
Yes,
he got in his way.
I've been very vocal about how I don't feel like this partnership would ever work at all. Lautaro needs a target man near him, and Correa simply isn't that. They were both trying to do the same thing, and they were just disrupting each other in that sense. And then what's his face came on, Taremi. He tried an overhead kick that should have never been an overhead kick. He could have scored, and he didn't offer much more. I think what he offers is better balance up front. But again, just this was never a performance that should have rifled a team into top place, because it was really it wasn't a great game by Inter at all. But we always say, if you win a game where you don't deserve to, then you deserve to win.
That's
exactly.
Then the win is almost more impressive than if you had deserved it.
There you go.
This is a vintage ugly win, and these are the types of wins that win you the league, you know. I mean, it's a clean sheet, 3 points, you know, while your opponents struggled in against Como, right? And that was a very difficult game for Napoli.
Just to stop you to finish off with Inter, they now have a very tight schedule with their currently a squad that is looking talent-wise when it comes to players that are on form, as we mentioned earlier, quite a thin squad, funnily enough, for Inter when it comes to quality. They now play Lazio tonight in the Coppa Italia. They then are away to Napoli in what some people are calling a title decider. Then they are away to Feyenoord in the Champions League, all in succession, baby. So this is what happens. This was the fear that we had for Inter when we came to the season where they'll be competing on all fronts. This is what you have to put up with.
For those listeners thinking, what the hell did you just say, that Inter's depth lacks quality? Just to tweak it a little bit, as this is a point we've banged home many times, and I'm sure this is why you didn't explain it. It's the fact that the bench, they have different characteristics of the starters, and they don't quite make Inzaghi's system tick as much as the starters do. So quality, of course, with regards and with respect to this system.
I think Inter have been very blessed in the past few seasons with fitness and just having all their players in tip-top condition. You see Barella never getting an injury. DiMarco on the past few
Yeah.
seasons, this is the first time we're really seeing him struggle properly with injuries. Thuram, he was fit as whatever last season. And now we're starting to see them, unfortunately, get the short end of the stick when it comes to all of these games taking place in quick succession. And that's disrupting them, because having Aslani in defensive midfield rather than Çalhanoğlu gives you a different player and a different system completely. But Inzaghi seems to be set on this one system, and he expects players. He doesn't have the players to plug and play. He needs to adapt the system slightly, and that's not what he's doing at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. Como, of course, hosted Napoli, and Conte set up in a 3-5-2 system with Raspadori partnering Lukaku, and Billing, of course, taking the place of Anguissa in midfield, as he decided to protect Anguissa from potentially getting a yellow card and being suspended for the Inter game, only for Anguissa to get injured very recently, not even in the game.
I'd assume it was training.
Yeah. Napoli initially controlled possession. They played a high defensive line. Their wing backs were inverted, which was a very interesting thing to notice. Como's setup was the same fluid attacking structure that worked in the previous match against Napoli. They used Nico Paz as a false nine, supported by Strefezza and Thiaw. And in possession, Strefezza pushed high, and out of possession, he dropped into a defensive role.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I think that one of the decisive changes for Como, of course, was bringing on Cutrone for Kakere, shifting to a more attacking setup that probably caught Conte off guard. And this, in fact, Cutrone's pressing, it paid off really quickly because it led to Thiaw's winner. So I think at the end of the day, Fabregas actually outmaneuvered Conte this game, shifting control in the midfield, making aggressive substitutions at the right moment, while Napoli really struggled to create chances, and they really suffered from their static 3-5-2. While Como's more flexible approach and their pressing intensity, I think, handed them the victory over here. I'm having issues with Lukaku's fitness here. And
He's looking like an old man, unfortunately. Lukaku.
Even the Thuram brothers, excellent players, both of them, both struggling with fitness at the same time. Funnily enough, Kefrem, when fit, is one of Juve's best players
for sure.
He's probably their best midfielder, but he can't quite do it consistently week in, week out. And Marcus Thuram just looks quite unfit, man.
Yeah. Now he has braids, so hopefully that'll help him. Just to deep dive a little bit on Napoli, and then obviously get into Como a little bit. Thank you, sir. When it comes to Napoli, I think this 3-5-2 has its pros and cons. The pro is Raspadori is playing the best football he's played in the past few seasons. I think his partnership with Lukaku is quite strong, and we've seen it pay off with 2 goals for him in the past 2 games. He's actually being utilised. That, I feel, as for a player that doesn't have one concrete nailed position, this should be his position in a front 2 with a big striker next to him. He'd actually be a fantastic vice at Inter, for example. Really fits that kind of Lautaro role in that sense. The 3-5-2, unfortunately, you end up, however, and then playing Politano out of position, for example, which isn't great, playing him as a right wing back. And it's just Napoli moved away from the 3-4-3 and the 3-5-2 earlier on in the season, for the reasons that we saw over here. Unfortunately, they're not as fluid with this shape. It's not something that they're used to. I feel like they move the ball around so much better when they play a 4-3-3 formation. And in addition to that, I had another point which seems to be escaping me right now. We are seeing, for those saying, obviously, the not replacing Gvara isn't the be-all and end-all situation because he wasn't even playing that well and Neres has been playing better than him. In situations like this, having a world-class player like Gvara, he's the kind of guy to get you a goal in a game like this. An adequate replacement for him, or not selling him or reinvesting it in some other way, would have definitely been the way to go. They are seeing the shortcomings of that, and it's no coincidence that they've gone 4 games without a win in a row. playing one competition a week.
Yeah. And once again, an individual error really affected Napoli. And this is a theme right now, these individual errors, with Napoli and Milan especially, they're recurring. And I think with Napoli, it's more of a case of just some players not being up to the standard of a Scudetto winning team. And I'm not talking about Rrahmani, of course, because I really rate Rrahmani. I'm talking more about, for example, Mazzocchi and Juan Jesus, right? Or the fact that they, as you mentioned, got rid of Guevara and didn't replace him, and then Neres got injured. Those were the two X factors for Napoli for the Scudetto. And suddenly you're relying on purely the system, right? And their goal, the one goal they managed to get was dispossessing Kempf and forcing the goal. It was a favor from Como. So I think without these creative players that they lost, and the fact that they're going to have to rotate more and more, without Anguissa, without having to move Politano to as a wing back, they're really affecting Napoli now, and we're starting to see the limitations of their squad.
Completely. You hit the nail on the head. Also, a team that significantly lacks any sort of speed whatsoever that could allow them to be vital on the counter. At least I think that's what Raspadori is doing well.
Hopefully Okafor can come into form for them, because he can give them that, to be honest.
Yeah, he can give them something. But just overall, very, very disappointing from Napoli. Completely different story for Cesc Fabregas's Como, who have been such an exciting team, and they're doing everything right over here. The signing of 19-year-old Thiaw, who now has 3 goals in the past. Is it 3 goals in a row?
I think he's got more than
3 goals in a row and 5 goals in 8 games for him. And that finish and that movement before the finish, the run he made off the ball, spectacular.
He's a natural. And he's a natural.
I was listening back. I told you this. I was listening back to our predictions episode. Please do that, because everything changed so much. It's a ridiculous listen.
We're talking about Keylor Navas in goal for Monza,
literally
Varane
at Como. It's crazy, man. Crazy. Will Coop Miners go to Juve? The Osimhen situation, you were saying Napoli are still going to have Osimhen.
Time flies, huh?
Absolutely. But where was I going with this? We're talking about Roma, and I said Sule and Dybala are both, they both play on the same side. How do you envision them doing that? Is Dybala going to be forced on the left? Is Sule going to be forced on the left with Dovbyk up front? And you said, I feel like they're going to be flexible. I think they're going to be free. I think they're going to communicate. And I think they're going to be wherever they should be at that given time.
How mysterious.
That's what Como are doing.
Yeah.
That's what you mentioned it with Strefezza going forward and pulling back. Sometimes he's slotting into midfield, and sometimes it looks like he's the striker within the team. Paz doing the same thing. Thiaw really looking like at times Thiaw looked like the false 9 over there. They're so flexible. They're mixing it up, and for any team that goes man to man, they're a nightmare to play against. An absolute nightmare.
Yeah, because you end up totally destroying your own formation, right? Following your opponent, exactly, or totally leaving gaps while trying to press. Yes. The Como side are very, very interesting and very fun to watch. Also, shout out to Boutte.
Yeah, what a save!
What a save on McTominay!
What a save!
Fantastic!
Huge save.
Yes. Do you blame Rrahmani or Meret for that goal? Let's have this conversation. I think we're going to agree immediately.
I think Rrahmani. I think just a schoolboy error. So I don't think Meret should have been that far out to the right, because you have to expect the worst at any given moment. But I don't want to grill Meret for that. It was not his fault at all. You have to, if you're playing the ball to your goal, if you play the ball anywhere, you have to be looking at where you're giving the ball. That is a schoolboy error, man. The way he passed the ball was crazy, and because it was like
he was so confident he was in goal.
Man,
how embarrassing! Can you imagine?
Disaster of an own goal. That is a disaster of an own goal, and at the moment everything is going wrong for Napoli and Milan.
Yes. And then meanwhile you have Atalanta, listening to Baila Morena as they're totally destroying their opponent. They went to Empoli and absolutely pulverized them. 5-0. Okay, 5-0. that's the difference, I think. The main difference between Atalanta and the other teams competing for the Scudetto is that Atalanta have the potential to absolutely destroy their opponent, especially when they're from the lower half of the table. That's something that Napoli and Inter at the moment have lost, because they do tend to struggle to get it over the line, or tend to be more pragmatic at times, while of course Atalanta set up with their 3-4-3. They've got Lookman, Retegui and De Ketelare up front, and it's a party. One by one, everyone's scoring. Zappa Costa got on the score sheet. Retegui scored again, 20-something goals this season. He's on course.
22 now. No, 21.
He's definitely going to win that. The Cup of Canoniere, because Marcus Thuram has dipped, as we said.
And you're right about how Atalanta can destroy their opponents. This is not the first time they've won a game by a 5-goal margin. It's not the first time this season that they've scored 5 goals. I'm just looking over here. So they beat Empoli 5-0. They beat Verona 5-0. Those were both away from home. They beat Sturm Graz 5-0 at home. They beat Cesena, 6-1. They beat Young Boys away from home 6-1. They beat Verona at home 6-1. They beat Genoa at home 5-1. They beat Lecce away 4-0.
Yeah, this gives them the opportunity to really rotate and rest players, and that's something that they do constantly. You look at that Napoli team, for example. It's set up in a similar way to this Atalanta team. However, it's almost like you get 45 minutes in this Atalanta team. He's rotating so often, man, and he uses literally every player in his squad. It's wild.
If only all teams did that, like Milan, for example, who start all their strong players, all their strongest players all the time, and
all
then
at
have no
once.
plan B.
That's frustrating.
But just looking at Atalanta, I think firstly, I'm not going to say being knocked out of Europe is the best thing that could have happened to them, but I really, really value the opportunity to win a domestic league for a team, and I feel like every team starts the season with their goals. Atalanta last season, they won the Europa League and they managed to finish 4th at the same time. So amazing, especially when the coefficient allowed 5 teams and they got 4th and won the Europa League. We saw Roma struggle with juggling those two competitions, but Atalanta managed to actually get both. They would have gotten that spot anyway, kind of thing. But I do think Champions League is an entirely different ball game. I do think that finishing first in the domestic league, I do think it's a harder task, and it's really hard to juggle those two. And I think Atalanta, with the situation they find themselves in, I said from day one they should absolutely be prioritizing the league, because their goal at the start of the season would have been to finish 4th again and go deep into the Champions League as much as they can. I feel like a goal should be reevaluated at times.
Of course, depending on the conditions.
Absolutely. They find themselves 3 points from the top. To all those people that were saying it's a 2-horse race, who counted out Atalanta immediately, I have this feeling right now that, to me, I think Atalanta are going to win the league. Because you look at... This is potentially the last season with Gasperini. It is definitely the last season with Lookman. Retegui is on the form of his life in his first season at a top club. He was unheard of 2-3 seasons ago. He got called up from Italy because Italy had virtually no strikers available and Genoa brought him in.
Exactly.
One season at Genoa, goes straight to Atalanta, and he's the top scorer. We've seen that number 9 struggle in that sense. They've got De Ketelare having the season of his life. His numbers have slowed down a little bit. At one point, he had a move,
De Ketelare. He took it. It looked like he had nowhere to go, and he managed to turn the defender on the byline and force the affair while attacking the box. He's so good, De Ketelare, man. And honestly, sometimes I look at that player and I'm absolutely blown away as to how that's the same guy we saw at Milan.
Absolutely.
This is something I often it's kind of besides the point, but it's so interesting to see, because this is kind of like what we thought De Ketelare could become in the first 2-3 games with Milan. Remember how he actually looked decent, and then his confidence just got worse and worse and worse, and he just got worse and worse and worse, and now he's thriving at Atalanta. Even though his output has dipped, he's doing so well.
Yeah,
but
completely.
Regarding Atalanta winning the league, they do have that tough spell that we're talking about. Now they have to do it. This is the most open Serie A we've had in a very long time. There's no clear favourite. There's no team that's dominating. Napoli under Spalletti looked invincible. Apart from when they played Milan in the Champions League. Inter, when they won the league, looked invincible. You know, it's just now everyone looks human. Everyone has their shortcomings. While, you know, this week was very telling for them. You know, Atalanta won 5-0, while the others they dropped points, or they scraped past their game to a similar side.
Yeah, and we're gonna have so many exciting games coming up with these Atalanta fixtures. I'm gonna watch every single one. There's not a single game out of those I'm gonna miss, because and then there's so many 6-pointers for the league during those games. I think over here they didn't have a hard time at all. I think they were disappointed with their result against Club Brugge. Some players like Lookman were fired up, and Gasperini was fired up in that sense, and I think the team went out and did what they do best. They absolutely destroyed a struggling Empoli team who are looking just... Empoli did this a couple of seasons ago, where they started off the season so well and then they just regressed, and it is looking like our original prediction of them getting relegated is actually looking quite likely at this point. I don't know what the fuck happened to this team. They were so defensively sound.
Injuries. They had quite a few, and we're talking about the heart and soul of that defense getting injured, and Ismaili.
Yeah.
Massive. Fazzini, who was excellent in the first part of the season, has been more out than in. Anjorin, who became a very good kind of midfield player for them, a nice solution, is also injured. Pellegrini, who was scoring for fun, did his ACL. You know, Viti, who was playing also very well at the back, is also injured. You know, it's just...
It's a disaster.
A combination
at the
of
moment.
errors. A combination. And they have to play their Shilio as their centre-back and a 3 at the back. Right now.
It's one of the first times I'm going to say I don't think the solution is offloading D'Aversa. I think if there's the conversation about sacking D'Aversa, I really don't think they should do it, because it's clearly, no, I said the same thing about Genoa and Gilardino, and it turns out it was the right thing to do. But I feel like they started off so strong, and there's clearly something over there. And even if they go down to B and they keep D'Aversa, they hire players through him, because he clearly knows the system that should be in place, I think we'll see them back up in no time. I'm not saying Empoli are certainly going to get relegated. The relegation battle, we'll get into it.
But their form is abysmal.
But their form is the worst in the league.
Their came on the 8th of December.
They haven't won this year.
Yeah, against Verona. And they beat them away from home 4-1.
Madonna.
And somehow that game, Zanetti didn't get sacked, and now they're doing better. Remember, that was the whole thing?
Yeah.
Verona had to win that game. Yes, and since it's been absolutely terrible. Now they play Juventus in the Coppa Italia, and then after that they have Genoa away from home. They have to play Genoa away from home, followed by Roma, Torino, Como, and then Cagliari, Napoli. Just doesn't, for these teams, it never
ends, man. Never ends. It helps that it's once a week, but does it really help that it's once a week?
Yeah.
Before we move on, because I think we're done from the key talking points over here, and we could move on to the race for Europe, so on and so forth. Gasperini's future and Atalanta, I think, is a key talking point. There are a lot of teams that... So, how the fuck... What are Atalanta gonna do without Gasperini?
It's gonna be weird.
Everything changes without Gasperini, because he is way more than a coach. He's a fucking manager. He runs the team. Gasperini. It's crazy the amount of authority he has at a club. Like when Zlatan hired Fonseca, he's like, I hired Fonseca because he's a coach. We don't need a manager, we need a coach. We need someone with the players, we need a motivator, the rest leave it up to us, kind of thing. Gasperini is the opposite of that. Gasperini, this is his club. I think that Gasperini can do bits at other teams, but not to the same extent that he did with Atalanta, because I think his personality, he's hard to work with.
Oh yeah.
Like imagine him and De Laurentiis kind of thing, or like him with whoever, to be honest. So how is he gonna fare away from Atalanta? Should Roma get him? It's been mentioned. Roma want either him or Ancelotti. Apparently Roma always go for these bizarre ones. He was tempted by Napoli as well. Where do you think we'll see him?
I think it very much depends. I think
he might retire, personally.
That's, first of all, guy isn't getting any younger. You know, he's on the older side. 70 years old, 70 something.
No, he's not 70, but he
not, might be 70.
He's not far from it, but he's not.
Let's see. He's old.
He's 67.
67. There's a 7 in there.
Mm-hmm. I love the 67.
What's that?
You know, remember that Maltese show? They're like, "What's your favorite sex position?" They do a vox pop in the street, and they put it in front of this hamallo. They go, "What's your favorite sex position?" And it just goes, "The 43." Like, what the fuck is the 43?
I believe in English that's called the pile driver. No. Gasperini, I think I don't see him working outside of Italy at this age. So I think it would be interesting to see him at Roma, but it would have to be a big team, I think, for him to continue working at that age. So maybe Roma, maybe I wouldn't put it past Milan because they're absolutely insane. And Gasperini, I think, likes Milan more than we think he would, considering the beef between Milan and Atalanta. But I think he would like it there. I think he's passed comments of praise.
Yeah.
However, I'm more intrigued as to who is going to take over Atalanta.
Absolutely,
because you know, are they going to go for a young profile? I'm not particularly worried because I do think that Atalanta are run very well from the top down. So we're talking about their scouting network, their management, their sporting director, their financial team, everything that they do well. And they're a club that's constantly on an upwards trajectory, and a club that's always in the green financially. So I think they'll be fine, and they'll probably make the correct decision.
Yeah, before Gasperini, they've had failed stints by managers as well.
I mean, they were a provincial side. They are.
They had Colin Tuono for 5 years. Before that, they had Eddie Reha, who only spent a year over there. They had Conte at a point, but he lasted virtually under a season. I did not know that, in fact. So they're so great at hiring talent, and they've got a great scouting network. It's time to see if they can do that with a manager, because they absolutely hit the nail on the head with Gasperini. They kind of got lucky in that sense as well. We'll see what they can do. It is exciting, but like you said, are they gonna go for a huge name, or are they gonna go for an up and coming guy?
I think they don't go for huge names, do they, Atalanta, ever? So probably they'll go for an Italian coach who isn't rated very highly.
I have it. It's Gilardino, bro.
Yes, oh my god.
It's Gilardino.
I think they'll aim higher than that, though.
I think, but
that's exactly what they would do.
I love that so much, man. And then Milan after. Okay, sorry, that's just emotion getting into the way how I think. But to be fair, systematically, with the balanced style of play, formation-wise, it's a fit. Will they aim higher? I feel like that's a real Atalanta.
That would be a risk. It's very Atalanta.
But also, I feel like Gilardino is a top-quality coach. Had it really bad at Genoa with the injuries as well. Even though Vieira is now doing a completely different thing with them. But let's keep in mind what a great manager Gilardino is.
Of course.
It shouldn't be slept on. Shall we move on to the battle of Europe and the survival candidates all in once, to be fair? Because I looked at the weekend of football and I'm like, it's all the top teams against all the bottom teams. What kind of week is this gonna be? Holy shit, but bro, we had Torino beat Milan 2-1. Parma beat Bologna 2-0. Verona beat Fiorentina 1-0. Venezia held Lazio to 0-0. Juve scraped past Cagliari in Sardinia with the score of 1-0, and then Roma took advantage and beat Monza 4-0. Last week, I said if both Milan and Bologna win, then that head-to-head fixture on Thursday, that game in hand, is going to be even more vital. But they both lost, so it's even more vital. It's you have to win that game. Whoever doesn't win that game, it's a disaster for them. I think that's the main headline. And then there's also, of course, that Parma beat Bologna on Chivu's debut, bro. Which one do you want to start with?
Let's start with Chivu.
Okay.
Let's start with Bologna. So this was Chivu's debut as Parma manager, and it was his debut as a senior manager, actually, because he had only ever coached the under 14s until the under 19s of Inter.
I find that crazy.
Crazy,
man.
absolutely insane, yes. But he brought an immediate impact as they won 2-0. Not even 1-0. It wasn't ugly. It was quite clean as a victory, to be honest with you. Chivu set up Parma totally opposite to what we're used to seeing with Parma, because normally they take a very expansive offensive approach, a very open approach.
Yeah.
This time Chivu had them compact defensively, and they focus on aggressive transitions. They move the ball very quickly. In fact, I think their goal was from when they won the ball. It was 7 touches.
Yes, literally
7
where
touches, the
Dennis
second
Mann
goal,
dragged
exactly.
it forward.
And then Som with the excellent finish.
Yeah.
They lack Bologna controlled possession. Obviously, Parma surrendered it, but they lacked their usual. Italiano. They lacked their usual pressing intensity, and they couldn't really unsettle Parma, who were a rock at the back.
Yeah.
So Bologna just had a lot of harmless possession.
Yeah.
As we sometimes. As we got used to seeing last season and
With
the season
Italiano
before with Italiano,
Fiorentina.
exactly.
Blank possession,
Exactly.
shooting blanks.
Yes, shooting blanks. Parma's attacking strategy, and I was very happy to see this, revolved around the physical and technical presence of Ange Boni, who's finally back.
Yeah, you have him and you have to use him to his advantage, and that's exactly what it is. And he's got a wealth of technically gifted players around him. You look at the way Som took that goal, for example, and then there are players like Bernabe, there's Ankvist, Cancelleri, Dennis Mann. He's the exact right striker over there, and I've said it and I'll say it again. He's the perfect fit for Napoli to replace Lukaku. He's so good with his back towards goal. Then he's also strong on the turn. He's a good finisher. He's a rigorista. Literally prime Lukaku, obviously, to a different scale at the moment, but bro is still, 20, 21 years old?
Absolutely.
He's super young.
Yes. When it comes to the shots on target, I'm trying to find the stat to make sure it's correct. Why doesn't it say over here?
Doesn't?
It doesn't for some reason. There's shots, but not shots on target. And the second half, I'm not sure this is all game. I believe it's the second half only. Bologna didn't have a single shot on target until late into the game.
Wow. Okay.
Late into the game. That's how frustrated they were by Parma. They held firm, in
fact, Bologna only had 1 shot on target.
That's it. So it is correct. They didn't have a single shot on target.
75% possession, 562 passes for Bologna.
So one thing I notice over here with this game, it's the Mourinho influence on Chivu.
Yeah.
Because he was in that 2010 team.
It has to
This
be.
was Mourinho-esque by Parma. It was very disrupt and attack.
And that's the thing with Parma, and I've said this as well, just because even at the beginning of the season, again, I was listening to our prediction episode, we're saying they have a team that's fit for Serie A. I think they have a really, really, really talented team, and they are underperforming. I know they just got relegated. They just got promoted from Serie B, but I think this squad is really, really fucking good and technically gifted. I feel like they had a lot of structural problems under Pecchia.
Defensively especially.
Defensive problems. And I think if you manage to get someone to sort out those issues, I'm not saying you don't need to sort them out offensively with the right passages of play and stuff like that. But you see what happens when they want to counter-attack. They play it to Dennis Mann. All he needs are 5 touches to get the ball clean through to a striker. I feel like moving forward, they've got a wealth of talent, man. That if you fix them up structurally and defensively and off the ball, you're almost good to go.
I think that's it, man.
Not to downplay what Chivu has done over this one game either.
Of course, because it's difficult to actually execute.
Yeah.
But when you have a wealth of talent like this, it's true. You fix the defense and you hit on the brake.
Steady the ship.
And I really liked what he did with Estevez.
Oh,
because
loads.
Estevez came on and really shielded the defense. He really came on and held the ship, held everything firm, just sitting in front of the defense and protecting them.
Yeah.
And I really like the way they hit on the break. and the way they capitalized on errors as well. Textbook transition, especially on that second goal.
And like you said, they disrupted Bologna, who weren't capable of creating chances. They had 16 shots, apart from that one shot on target. That's 16 shots, and all of them, I think, if you look back, none of them are remarkable chances or anything of the sort. I think that is the key area of focus. They sat back very Mourinho, as you said, and then hit on the break. Very well executed. A frustrating day for Bologna. I think if you look at Bologna over their recent matches, they had such a spell.
They hadn't lost. It's their first loss in 2025, Bologna.
There you go, man. You look at it before, they had the win over
And a youth
Torino.
manager delivered it to them.
They knocked out Atalanta of the Coppa Italia. They beat Como, which isn't easy at all. They had gotten their first win in the Champions League as well. They had a few draws, so they drew disappointingly away to Empoli. They drew away to Lecce disappointingly. But now a loss to Parma is it's enough to put you in a bit of a rut. But of course, when they play that game in hand against Milan,
they'll be back.
They're going to be very, very motivated.
Yes.
And after that, they've got some favourable fixtures, including a game against Cagliari, a game against Verona, a game against Venezia. So they do have some favourable fixtures.
Yes, absolutely. So, yeah, well played Parma, well done Chivu. Meanwhile, Lazio travelled to Venice and they drew 0-0. And this wasn't like the Lazio we've grown accustomed to seeing this season, because Lazio this season destroy the smaller teams. And Lazio this season have a lot of energy. Yeah. And they outrun their opponents. This Lazio was sluggish. This Lazio was meh.
Lazio deserved to lose the game.
Yes, Venezia were better. Venezia were straight up better than them. And I thought that Dia was a little bit off and he missed a massive chance. I thought that Nuno Tavares, since his injuries, has been very shaky, man.
It's like night and day. You look at the previous performances of Lazio, this is what I mean, man. You can't be a Serie A expert. No one's a Serie A expert because it's like fucking night and day. I'm looking at them over the past 5 matches and saying, oh, Lazio, they're so fit. They're so quick. They're such a good project, a well-gelled unit. And then they come in a game like this against Venezia, who, props to them, they were good, but Lazio did nothing in this game. Nothing. It's like night and day. All the players, the only player I can look at and say he was creating everything and doing something. Every single game, it's the same case, right? It's Zaccagni.
Yeah. And there's one clear gap in this lineup. So you see Guendouzi and Delabashiru they formed the double pivot. Look at what Venezia did. They crowded the midfield, 3 midfielders. And that stopped the transitions, that stopped Lazio's build-up play. It stopped everything, even the lateral pressing.
We've spoken about this as well when it comes to Lazio, about how these guys should never be in a pivot together because you lose a creator.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, they have Belayan, trust him.
Yeah, but... It's still early, but I would have played Belayan in a game. As against Venezia, play Belayan.
He's been playing all season. It's not like he's unfit or he has to get used to the league. Granted, he has to adapt to the team, but this is his position.
Because, and then you look at, for example, where are you controlling the game? Sure, Gila does a good job in getting involved in the midfield and trying to build play up himself. He's that kind of defender at the end of the day. But then if you look at this 4-2-3-1, that tends to shift to a 4-4-2. So it's not like Dia is the one slotting into midfield to shape up a 4-3-3 defensive unit. So they at the end of the day, they just had 2 very similar profiles in Guendouzi and Delabashiru. As we've said time and time again, not exactly the same profiles, but you don't have someone that can move the ball around and control. Yeah, against a team like Venezia, that's important. Control the game, win the game.
Exactly. And I think we've reached the point as well where Noslin, who was meant to have quite a pivotal role in this Lazio side, isn't really finding a lot of success. He's had moments, he's had bursts.
But he's such a nice guy, man.
He's a lovely guy. But as a number 9, it doesn't quite work. I think he's a better finisher than Castellanos, but they miss Castellanos so much.
But
Castellanos and Dia almost need each other. I think it works perfectly with Dia as the trequartista.
Absolutely.
Tati's such a personality up there as well. He's so technical and he drops deep. He's He's a frustrator. He frustrates the defense. He's a very important piece.
Absolutely, I'd go
Super
so
underrated.
far as to say, apart from obviously Zaccagni and Rovella, that he's the most important player that they have, because literally they build everything around Castellanos when it comes to the final third. I think just a newsworthy point is Mandas started ahead of Provedel.
Yes, and that's
big. That is a big statement.
And this was so the problem with Mandas is that whenever he's been given a chance, he hasn't really had anything to do in those games because they're against lower sides. However, this game he had a massive save on Aristanio, and I'm curious to see who will be fielded tonight in tonight's Coppa Italia game, and then who will play this weekend, because Lazio have quite a big game. I think it's who is it this weekend? Lazio.
It's huge. Milan, man.
Milan, yes.
Oh my god. My birthday week is a disaster.
It's gonna be bad, bro.
It is gonna be bad.
And there was one more thing I wanted to mention. Ciauna, man, he's been the flop for Lazio, I think.
It's true,
because it's come to a point now where you don't expect anything from him, and that's when you know you flopped. And at Salernitana, he could at least force the affair. You know, now it seems like his confidence is shot. And apparently tonight he's rumored to start as a striker, so we'll see how he does over there. I don't know. At this point, play Diaz striker.
I would absolutely
play Diaz striker and go 3 in the
striker.
middle. Change
I'd
it
go
up.
3 in the middle. There you can 3 in the middle. Guendouzi, Rovella or Belayan and Della Bashiru would be excellent. Of course, you're running a bit thin because they don't have that much depth in midfield. But I think that would be a great thing for them to do. And I want to see a bit of Arjan Ibrahimovic, not because he's young and he should get minutes, but I think in a game like this, his creative nature in such a disruptive environment in Venice would... Sorry, I got a bit thrown off by your touch. It's fine. I think he could create, and I think in a game like this, you need someone who can create, and I think
I wonder what's taking so long. Yeah, I mean, he was good at Frosinone in Serie A 2 seasons ago.
Yeah, 2 seasons ago?
2 seasons ago, Arjan was very good.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about Milan now.
Okay, let's do that. Let's jump to Milan. Let me just say this: Lazio and where do you think Lazio should be aiming for? Of course, coming into it, Lazio top 4 was not even a talking point. We had them out of the European places completely because of the amount of changes, the fact that over the past 3 seasons they lost, over the past 2 seasons they lost Sergei, they lost Ciro, and they lost Luis Alberto, and they lost Sarri. So a lot of change.
Yes.
I think that, and this is similar to Napoli, right? Where Napoli finished 10th last year, and now suddenly, because they're not first, it's seeming like a flop of a season, but at the end of the day, if they get top 4, it's dandy.
If they got top 7, it would have been
literally.
dandy.
And isn't it this is similar with Lazio, and the fact that they don't need to get top 4 for this to be a remarkable season for them?
I wouldn't say remarkable, but yes, I think they're well within their objectives, and they're still overachieving because they have a nice run in the Europa League. They've been deemed the favourites to win it.
Yeah.
But yes, I think they should still aim for that top 4 spot because, of course, they are only 2 points.
For sure.
Obviously. Milan.
Torino, Milan. Let's do it. Fuck it.
I have quite a few things to say, but I'm gonna ruin my mood, bro. I'm not quite sure how to go about this. So I think once again, Conceição. My main criticism for Conceição is the fact that he plays all his cards. He plays his entire hand immediately. I don't think it's wise when you have the likes of Leao, Pulisic, and João Felix to deploy them all from the get-go. Because if things don't go your way, you're going to have to bring on Chukwueze.
And Reinders and Musa.
Exactly, and Reinders
and Musa.
So these are all offensive players. These are all players, apart from Leao, who can play in that hole behind the striker.
And Jimenez as well.
Jimenez is the striker, and then exactly. But
No. Jimenez is in the right back. He's
everyone is offensive.
Yeah.
There's no balance in the team. And, the best thing that Conceição did, and he won an immediate trophy for it, was putting more bodies in the middle of the pitch. And suddenly, because the management have given him João Felix, he feels the pressure, I think, to play him.
What
João
is he?
Felix
His
isn't even
boyfriend,
owned.
man. Why does he love him so much? It's true, though. It's true. They have to be having some sort of I mean, look, he's a very talented player, but the first thing Conceição did that was different to Fonseca. Fonseca's problem, midfield completely bypassed. Playing a 4-2-3-1, adamant on it, didn't change it. Sometimes shifted to a 4-4-2, still the same issue. Milan bring in Conceição. First thing he does, 3-man midfield. It was Musa, Ben Nasser at the time, and Fofana or Reinders, whatever he had at the time, right? And that was working. All well and good. That was working because Milan's midfield suddenly wasn't being bypassed. Now, Milan had some sort of spending power and they brought in great talent in Santi Jimenez up front. They brought in Kyle Walker and great spending power. I mean, a bunch of these players came in free as well. João Felix. João Felix is a very talented player. He's also a very frustrating player because he hasn't quite fitted in completely yet, and I feel like him and 2 other players are trying to do the exact same thing. Him and Reinders are constantly clashing in where Reinders should be and where João Felix should be. It feels like he's given way too much liberty and freedom, João Felix, where it's like he has little flashes of greatness, but that's not what Milan need to win a game. And he's playing up there. He has the same thing as Leao, where he doesn't track back and do this and that. And the midfield is once again now being bypassed. And time again, Conceição is doing the same thing. And he's losing a weapon to bring on in the second half.
Yes. João Felix could be what Milan need. When we saw in the Coppa Italia, for example, when João Felix came on, he added an entire new dynamic, right? Against tired legs, tired minds, and you bring on a player with such a unique approach to football. A fantasista, yeah. So I think that it's important for Conceição to keep a player to kind of use as a solution if things are not going your way.
Yeah.
Now, it could have been the right approach. We don't know. Because Maignan immediately ruined it. Immediately. Because it's ridiculous how these individual errors persist. It's almost comical at this point. Every game, there's a bizarre individual error. And this game against Torino had 3 individual errors from Milan. The first one is Maignan hoofing the ball into his centre back who's right in front of him. You know what's going to happen if you kick it in there. Like put it out. Or wait. Anticipate. Chow's blocking the defender.
Box.
Pick it up. You're the keeper.
He's blocking the defender.
Exactly.
What are you doing?
Yes. Too eager, I think.
Yep.
The second one is Chow complaining to the referee instead of doing the obvious thing. That's so... It's almost standard procedure nowadays. If there's a free kick in a dangerous area, stand in front of the ball until everyone gets in position. Chow was complaining to the referee. Quick pass to Gneitis, one-on-one.
What a finish by Gneitis.
Yes. The third one is Pulisic, of course, missing the penalty. Of course, there isn't really much you can do. You're against an actual freak of nature.
Literally.
I think Cairo must have gone to do ayahuasca in the mountains and found Vanja Milinkovic-Savic in a cave, like eating babies or something. Because I don't know where the hell they got this guy. He is incredible.
We'll get to him soon.
4 out of 5 penalties saved this season.
It's ridiculous.
How is that even a real
He has to
stat?
go to Napoli. And I think he will go to Napoli.
That would be a match made in heaven.
He fits it too much and it's not reactionary. We've been saying this for years. And I think as well, 2 seasons ago Vicario, last season Di Gregorio, this season Vanja Milinkovic-Savic. But throughout those 2 seasons before as well, where there was Vicario and there was Di Gregorio, he was always number 2. He's such a great goalkeeper, man, and just solid. He has the size of Donnarumma. He has incredible reflexes. He gets down so quick. He commands his area. He's captain material. I heard people say, well, but he's not great with the ball at his feet. He's fantastic with the ball at his feet. He's
yes,
phenomenal
yes.
with the ball at. He's a set piece specialist with the ball at his feet.
He can ping it, especially
he's
with long
super.
balls.
He's
And that was
super.
their entire strategy. This was the classic Venezia Serie B last season.
Yes.
Hoofed the ball up and win the second ball.
Wait for Milan to fuck up because Milan, if they have time and space, they fuck it up. Let's talk about the individual errors.
Okay, go.
Because how is it the case? It's not a coincidence that, let's look at the timeline. There have been way too many errors, individual errors for Milan. There was this error by Maignan, mainly this error of Maignan. In the Champions League, there was the error of Theo Hernandez. Before, in the Champions League, there was the error of Maignan again. There was the error of Musa getting the red card.
Gabbia.
There was the error of Gabbia slipping as well. There have been way too many individual errors. Are we going to keep pinning it on the individual making the error? Or is there something deeper to look at over here?
So I think right now it's a confidence issue, definitely, but it's also a complacency issue, in my opinion. Almost like a lack of motivation and a lack of drive. And this is something that we saw, and we have seen, rather, with Milan when Fonseca was here, right? Drawing to Cagliari and just allowing Cagliari to come back into the game when you have a lead, and then beating Real Madrid at the Bernabeu, right? How do you explain that? It's simply a matter of playing to the level of your opponents when they're better than you, almost like, and totally taking a big chill when the opponent isn't as special, or rather when the world isn't watching, right? Maybe that's the case. Perhaps it isn't the case, but as a Milan fan, I actually have this opinion. I actually think that the players don't care about Milan as much as they should.
Milan don't have team players.
Exactly, and it could be, usually I resent this idea of there aren't enough Italians, but it could be the fact that there aren't enough people in this team who know what it means to be Milan, to play for Milan, to wear the shirt. There might not be enough leaders, I think.
I think
even the fact that, I'm sorry to interrupt you,
it's
but
alright.
Leao, after the elimination in the Champions League to Feyenoord, was walking around with his underwear out, advertising an underwear brand he had collaborated with.
I hate that.
How do you honestly
hate that.
How does that make any sense?
I hate that
and then you're
so
on
much,
Instagram
bro.
writing, get these underwear from the link below. Use the promo code Rafa's Smile.
I'll get them and I'll use them as toilet fucking paper, man. What the hell is that?
And the picture is him devastated. He's modeling the underwear. He's sad because he's been eliminated to Feyenoord, and his shorts are like way too low. His underwear out, and his and the brand showing.
Wear these underwear if you want to have an embarrassing performance and lose to Feyenoord.
I think he was one of the better ones, to be fair. But it's the action.
Still. I think, like we said about the team players, I think there are two team players in this team: Pavlovic and Pulisic. I think Pavlovic and Pulisic are the two that embody what it's like to be Milan. I feel like, as well, just kind of related to this, but not related to this at the same time. When Conceição started in this setup, the 4-2-3-1 formation, like we said, he had no proper substitutes to bring on. His first course of action at halftime was taking out Leao in the 45th minute, something you do not do with Leao. Leao is a 90-minute player. He's a player of moments. And as the way that Torino play when it comes to pressing you high up the pitch, play the ball to Leao, you find him in a bit of space, he can change the game over there. But he takes out Leao to bring on Fofana to stabilize the midfield. What happens 8 minutes after that? Changes to a 4-4-2. So from a 4-2-3-1, he went to a 4-3-3. And then he takes out Musa for Abraham, clearly going for a 4-4-2. In the 70th minute, and then it's João Felix out for Sotil. And in the 88th minute, he brings on Chukwueze and Camarda for the two Jimenezes.
Mm-hmm. The Jimenez
filling of venom. Just a disaster and a lack of planning in this game. Because a game is 90 minutes long. If you look at a game as 2 halves, or you look at a game, the way I prefer to look at it, as 4 quarters, who's this American? But you look at the game in stages. You look at the game as like the opening 25 minutes, the way that you close the second half, the way that you start the second half, and the way that you have to adapt towards the end of the game, because so many factors change the way a game is progressing. Goals, yellow cards, red cards, a lot of situational things, injuries, substitutions. There was clearly a lack of planning for the stages of the game. It's just put everyone out, let's devastate, let's dominate, and if we don't, I'll see what I'm going to do there and then. Exactly. That's what it felt like to me.
Yeah, shout out to Tammy Abraham, who came on looking gassed. He looked so hyped, like Anthony energy, you know.
He was crying.
And then he was crying at the end, so you could tell it meant a lot to him, which is at least nice to see that someone cares. Pavlovic, honestly, I love him so much. Like,
wow, he's my favorite player right now.
Honestly, how can you not love him, man? He's joining the attack. He's running back to win the ball at the end. He's the only one trying, and he wears his heart on his sleeve.
And bro, he was taking men on really well.
He's got some good feet on him.
Yes, he is. He has one of those superpowers, the same way Kessie has that strength superpower. Like, we always see him as a striker at the end of the game. I love players like that. I love that shit.
I love him too.
Imagine him and Vanya on the same team.
He's great. And one more point to mention.
And then we'll move on.
Because it's been a while. And this is the last one. And this is what's ultimately gonna depress me. Is Conceição okay, man? Is he okay? Because weren't Milan getting over here a motivator? Weren't Milan getting the type of guy you would die for on the pitch? Isn't that what Leao said? You know, you'd die for Conceição on the pitch. Weren't Milan getting someone who's going to be barking orders and he's going to be the 12th man on the sideline? Why was he sat on a cooler crying all game? Did you see that? He didn't move.
That's true.
And Vanoli, on the other hand, shouting, jumping, riling up his players. You know,
He was going mental.
Snarling at Vanya every time he made an amazing save, you know, just gassing everyone up. He was fueling his players with adrenaline and with support.
Yeah.
Conceição wasn't doing that. That makes me wonder. Has he already given up, this guy? Has he already... Have they depressed him already, this group of players?
I think so. I think what isn't in Conceição's favor are two main things, right? It's never easy to take over a team halfway through a season with players that don't fit your system. But then he also fucked up in saying, please get me João Felix, and it's completely ruined his system, in my opinion. Secondly, the club haven't exactly shown major faith in him by putting him on they have a clause in his contract that could basically mean that they can let him go after 6 months and they don't have to pay the remainder of his wages. So maybe he doesn't feel supported. Maybe he feels like he has a team that are against him and a board that are against him. Maybe he's not okay.
There's a top 4 contract renewal clause, no? If he finishes in 4th spot.
Do you think Milan are going to get top 4? Genuinely.
No, but at least, sorry, if you're losing to Torino, show some fucking passion, fight for your job. You know what I mean?
At this point, it's Conference League for Milan, man.
Oh god.
Maybe Europa League.
All right, let's end the show here.
It's Europa League, but
God Almighty,
it's a disaster. It's a disaster. Shall we jump to? I think we hit all the points. Just again, shout out to Vanya Milinkovic-Savic.
Wow,
great performance. I was really impressed by Maripán.
Even at one point, yes, Vanya dove the wrong way.
Yes,
saved the ball shot with his foot, man. It's incredible.
I low-key want Milan to get rid of Manjan for 40 million and get Vanya Milinkovic-Savic.
Milan are in talks to renew Manjan for 5 million euros, 6 million euros a season, while Vanya makes like 1.3 million a season.
He's destined for Napoli, yeah?
He's got that
Naples
spirit.
Yes. He'll go to Napoli. I'm quite certain of it. Let's move on. Is next up Bologna?
We've already talked about.
That's true.
Bologna, though.
So just to point
Fiorentina,
out
maybe.
Let's just jump to Fiorentina.
Okay.
Parma Bologna, by the way, is a derby. They're both in Emilia. There's also Spal and Sassuolo. So either of these 4 teams that play each other, it's the derby dell'Emilia, apparently.
Spal versus Sassuolo, the derby that no one has ever seen. When they play, the stadium is empty.
Guys, I couldn't recommend Thursday on my birthday. Tune in for Bologna Milan. That is the game to watch.
When is it?
27th of February. Not 1997, that's my birthday. But this Thursday, 27th February, on my birthday.
Nice. So it happened, bro. Fiorentina went to Verona, and one of Verona's randomly generated players scored at the end of the game to give them 3 points.
Yep.
I thought it was Livramento at first when I saw him running away in celebration. However, it is not Livramento, it's just a clone of Livramento, apparently. His name is Bernede, Antoine Bernede from the Swiss League. Good to see, great scenes when he scored that. However, I can't help but feel that part of this Fiorentina loss was due to the fact that they suffered another on-pitch scare. Things like that are massive distractions, and this time, I'm sorry to have to say this, but they asked for it, because you don't joke around with head trauma. You don't joke around with head injuries.
This is on them.
This is on them. We should have been replaced immediately. With that gash on his face, he should have never been allowed to go back onto the pitch.
That was the lack of investment in a striker, as I said earlier.
If we look at it tactically, of course, Zanetti set up Verona on a 3-5-2, shifted to a 5-3-2 in the non-possession phase. They tried to remain as compact as possible to deny Fiorentina's vertical passing lanes, their favourite passing lanes. While Fiorentina stuck with a 4-2-3-1. Kean was the lone striker, of course, because they have no one else. He was supported by Zaniolo, Beltran and Folorunsho, and most of the play was coming through Folorunsho before he tired out. And that happened quite quickly, to be honest. He created early chances, Folorunsho, for Kean and Zaniolo, but they were in vain. Sarr forced a save from De Gea with a long-range shot, and the first half, to be honest, was largely uneventful. And then Keane's injury happened in the 67th minute, which goes to show that, Fiorentina were a little bit rocked by this. Yeah. And Verona brought on Mosquera and Bernede, who provided a lot of energy on the other hand, while they're taking advantage of this mental lapse. And then eventually at the end there was a comedy of errors, which also could have been mentioned in our What the Hell is Going On.
True.
As Dodo kicks the ball into an opponent, it bounces back, Mari slips, Comozzo goes to block the shot, he slides past the striker in Bernede, who was faking the shot, and then Bernede just slots it past De Gea for them to win.
I think what you have here is a Verona team that have been struggling together as a unit. Now, of course, it's not exactly great that your team is struggling, but they've been through it together, right? And they're growing as a team as the season progresses, and they're also a team that is worthy of many miracles. Fiorentina, on the other hand, are a team that have now lost 3 games in a row in Serie A. They seem to be bottling any kind of opportunity that they had. Of course, the loss to Como, and now the loss to Verona, and before that they had another loss as well. I forgot against who. Inter. But to me, so what Fiorentina really haven't done this season is settled on a starting 11, and it hasn't always been their fault in that sense. Because Goodmanson is out injured now, Colpani is out injured now, but those two were kind of in and out for their own reasons as well. Both struggling for form.
Bove,
obviously.
He might, apparently, I read somewhere that he might be having it removed, his defibrillator.
Really?
Yeah, because apparently you can't play with it. But if you remove it, you can play. So he's looking into it or something.
If he removes it, why?
But apparently, it's not.
Let's not get into this because I don't feel like we're special.
No.
But
I'm definitely not.
That's okay.
But I'm sure
it's like
precautions.
Break your leg again, kind of thing. If he needs it, he needs it.
I'm sure. Obviously, all the necessary steps and precautions are being taken.
He's gonna remove it so he can play.
He's gonna remove it so he can play it.
But that I stand by this. That I don't feel like Fiorentina have really found their starting 11 yet. It hasn't always been their fault. But I also feel like they did well to bring in reinforcements where they needed in January, but they haven't quite gelled yet, have they? I think Zaniolo is very hit or miss as a player, and he hasn't quite impressed me yet. Folorunsho has been doing great, but he's new in that sense. And Fagioli, they seem to sometimes be playing him as an attacking midfielder, when to me he's a deep-lying playmaker, essentially. I like Fagioli in the number 6 role, pretty much, moving the ball around. That's how I've always fancied him.
I've seen him more in the offensive department, but to be honest, it's been so long since we saw Fagioli consistently that I can't quite place how he was as a 6. I remember him playing as almost a 10.
At times, but I don't think that's his strong suit. Essentially, even when he was playing at Juve, it was like him, Locatelli, kind of starting in place for each other.
Shout out to Duda, by the way, who had an excellent game man marking Beltran. He really nullified him, and Suslova and Shachua, who were just tirelessly working all game.
I think Verona did a great job. I think Fiorentina were their own enemies at times over here because they lacked any creative edge, and they seemed to be rocked after the Kean situation, which was unfortunately brought upon by decisions made by Fiorentina. Verona, the good thing that they did is that they stayed in the game throughout, right?
Yeah.
They stayed in the game, and when they got the opportunity, they took it, and that's all she wrote. And they take, once again, it looks like Verona could do it. It looks like they could stay up for another season, man, with all the odds against them. We keep writing them off, and they keep proving us wrong. Now they jumped Cagliari, who have had such a great spell. It's crazy what a win does to these teams, man. It propels them up to... Let me just find exactly where they are.
You talking about Roma? No.
Roma.
Who are you talking about? 1 second. Because
Verona, man.
Verona are in
14th
14th
now.
Yes. Yeah, sorry.
Roma, what happened to Roma once?
Because I was
This
thinking,
episode.
while you were speaking right now, I was thinking, who's next? And we've spoken about everyone except, and I remembered
Except
it's Roma,
Roma,
yes. And then I
Let's-
thought you were fucking transitioning
And to be
to
fair, we haven't done Cagliari Juve either.
Cagliari Juve. I can give you some information on how that went in a second once I find
Juve
Juve
are now in 4th place, and they're just 8 points. They're 8 points behind the league leaders. Still with just that one loss to their name. One interesting thing they did in this match is start Dusan Vlahovic, and he did well.
He did well. He did really well. This is Juve's 4th consecutive Serie A victory under Motta.
Yes, actually.
Yeah.
It's right here.
So Vlahovic scored the goal, rounding the keeper and totally abusing Jeremina and exposing his main weakness. Jeremina as a player is, if you catch him on the break and you're ahead of him, he's not going to catch you, right? And Vlahovic got the ball how he likes it, over the top, and he got in behind the defense, and he played to his strengths.
Still so strong over there, Vlahovic.
He's good in that situation. Motta, of course, deployed a 4-1-4-1 formation with Coop Miners acting as a pivot in midfield, despite recovering from... is he always sick, Coop Miners? Nowadays, he's apparently even in their game in the Champions League, he had a fever. Is he always sick?
Take some zinc, bro.
Yeah, take some,
Vitamin C
D
or D,
magnesium, whatever. Yeah, help yourself. I mean, Nicola started with a 4-5-1. He kept the defense compact, and his attacks went through Zortea. Most of them, at least they tried to. And Lovumbo eventually came on and caused some problems. I think Juve were much better in the first half, and then of course they dipped off completely in the second half and allowed Cagliari back into it. However, in the 77th minute, it's only fair to mention that there was a clear penalty for Juve. Juve deserved to get a penalty. Vlahovic was in the box 1-on-1 with the keeper, and out of nowhere Luperto comes and just pushes him. It's a push. It's obviously a penalty. But I mean, there isn't much else to say. I think Caprile's heroics kept Cagliari into the game for longer than they should have been. And this was a pretty good performance by Juve, especially in the first half.
Yeah, that always seems to be the case with Juve, a game of two halves. Even before Motta, it seemed to be the case with Allegri as well. It's typically the stronger first half, and then in the second half, typically they'd get an early lead and they'd hold off. If you were not to watch the game, that's what you might have think happened over here. I don't think it was the case. I don't think they scored one goal and then defended for 78 minutes. I think Cagliari is a very tough place to visit, and I think they gave Juve a tough game. I think they were compact. I think they went man for man to Juve. They disrupted Juve a lot. It was a very physical game from Cagliari's end. But ultimately, it was that early goal for Juve, while Cagliari were still settling into the game, that got them the victory at the end. And it's good to see Vlahovic scoring, because, like I said, his attitude has been really strong in these moments where people's ego could really get in the way.
Yeah, we only thought that he'd be scoring off the pitch this season.
Yeah.
Have you seen the footage?
No.
Of him in the hotel, in the hotel halls, in the hallway of a hotel.
Getting girl after girl in, no?
Yeah.
Dusan Vlahovic. Yeah.
Yeah, so basically this was a very clean display by Juve defensively, and they took advantage of a slip up, and they scored, and it was another clean victory similar to Inter's. Are you okay?
I have an eyelash, I think. Man, what a disaster.
If you get it out, you have a wish at least.
Great. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, no problem, bro. That's pretty much it. We can
Let's
also,
move
Roma destroyed Monza, and Monza looked absolutely terrible. And Soler was having a field day over there, cutting in, cutting out.
It's good to see him, Soler. He's been playing so well. He's great on confidence. He scored that free kick last week as well. Now he's assisting. He's great. I forgot what a great player he is because he was kind of frozen out and up until this point. And Ranieri is doing a good thing, with sometimes the Bala on the bench, sometimes Soler on the bench. They kind of come in and swap for each other. Whilst keeping everyone happy. I thought Shomorodov was impressive, obviously, with a goal and an assist in this game. I did think he missed quite a big chance at a point. But just dominant for Roma. It didn't take much. Of course, Monza are an absolute disaster on the pitch and off the pitch with the decisions that were made by everyone, essentially.
Yes.
And I think, should we start with the weekly bye-byes? Are you ready to start with the weekly bye-byes with 12 games to go?
Wait 1 sec, let me take a look at the...
Check the fixtures. We might, just so you guys know, if you don't know what the weekly bye-byes are, we might lock Monza in for relegation right now.
7 points from 18. That's 7 points.
Are we not ready to do that?
I don't know, bro. They have No, I'm not ready to wish them bye-bye yet.
I'm gonna do it. No.
So look at this. Look at this spell. Now they play Inter. Rip. And then after that, they have Parma, Cagliari, Como, Venezia. 4 games in a row, which are against direct competitors for relegation. If they go on a spell over there, they can get some points.
Yeah, but only 2 wins, man. They have 1 win under the manager that they currently have. It's quite a...
It's tough, yes, but
it's very tough.
From what I've seen...
Let's not start with the weekly bye-byes yet.
Crotone and Salernitana, I'm not ready to count them out
That's
yet.
true, fair enough.
Especially with Galliani writing cute little messages.
You know what the thing is? What I'll say is, I don't see Cagliari, Lecce, and Verona lose enough games. I don't see them dropping off that heavily. And in contrast to that, I don't see Monza performing so greatly either. And they need way more great performances rather than just these 4 that are upcoming.
I would say they need a miracle, quite frankly. Yes. So we'll see. Yeah, but it seems like everyone and their dog was scoring against Monza. Salamakers, Shomorodov, Angelino, Cristante, they were all 1 by 1 scoring. Here you go, you score. I believe at one point, Ranieri got close to scoring.
You want to know something crazy?
Yes, please.
Fucking Roma are just 1 point behind Bologna and Milan.
Yeah, and they had a terrible season, right? Apparently, Roma. That's what, remember that their season had a terrible start. Just goes to show how Milan have dipped.
Yeah,
but yeah. Shall we take some listener questions?
Let's
go.
No,
we have Udinese. We have to talk about the Lucca situation.
Oh, absolutely, yes.
Udinese and Lecce was quite a bit of a meh game to watch. Apart from that extremely dramatic moment, Udinese set up on a 4-4-2, which was very interesting. I was very excited to watch Lucca and Alexis Sanchez paired up front.
You have been all season,
and I have been waiting for it for a long time. However, yes, it was very short-lived, as after Lucca converted his penalty, he was substituted. That was so. One thing I want to say is that what we saw up until the penalty was scored and what we saw when Lucca was subbed off, it doesn't match. It doesn't match. It's kind of, it looks like, you see someone having a detrimental argument with his girlfriend and then he proposes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He was fighting his teammates. All of them were around him, trying to convince him to give the ball to Thauvin, who's a designated penalty taker. You have Thauvin telling him off, Bijol screaming at him. I forgot who was there.
Cabasele was beat him up, man.
Even the opposition, even the Lecce players were telling him like, go ahead, like just give him the ball.
Yeah.
But he persisted, and he eventually things went his way, and it just goes to show what an advantage being 6'7" has in your life. Like apparently people let you do what you want when you're that big.
Yeah.
He converts the penalty, incredible penalty. Top bins, he goes off in celebration, looks back, realizes he's all alone. Really awkward, very embarrassing. And then he's substituted. He goes off applauding. He hugs Iker, bravo. Gives him a bit of a rub on the head. Goes to the manager, daps him up, shakes his hand. Goes to the bench, high-fiving everyone on the bench. Sits down. What?
So bizarre.
So bizarre.
And then he posted something after the game.
Then he posted, it translates to, I thought I was a badass, but alone I am nothing.
Fantastic. Now, we've criticized players for doing similar things. It happened to our Milan, where Tammy Abraham wanted to take the penalty and Tomori took the ball from Pulisic's hands, gave it to him, and then Tammy missed it, for example.
Of course, Lookman
right now as well, even though that was handed to him by the penalty takers, he didn't fight anyone. That was important to mention, and we didn't. We did last week.
Yeah.
Lucca taking matters into his own hands. Firstly, I just want to say that behavior, I don't like it. I don't like that behavior, and it is objectively just wrong, because you went against your entire team over there. You went against your manager and every single player on your team. You showed that you're not a team player in that sense. What am I going to say to be the devil's advocate? Again, I disagree with what he did. I think Lucca has been very vocal about that he wants a step up and that he's going to get a step up. And Atalanta are still knocking. Milan were knocking as well until they bought Santi. And I think he's on a lot of teams' radar. I wouldn't even be surprised if Inter made an offer for him as well. And Udinese will obviously be willing to let him go for the money, right? I think he sees all of these top players, especially the Italians, on penalty duties, scoring week in, week out, like the likes of Retegui. And I think he's like, I want to hit that level. I want to get my numbers up.
He was 1 of 10.
I want to take
a career high for him. Yeah.
So I want to take penalties. That is number one. Number two, why is Thauvin on penalties when he missed 2?
He's missed his only 2 this season.
He missed his only 2 this season. Yeah. Why is he on penalties? So there, I would say, when something goes wrong in your country, when the government does something wrong, you protest. And you often protest by doing wild shit. And I think Lucca protested by doing wild shit. Because if Thauvin stepped up and missed the penalty, it's ultimately the entire team that's going to struggle. If Lucca was confident enough to go and say, no, the penalty is mine, I am going to score it, this guy sucks at penalties. Like, why is Thauvin on penalty duties if he sucks at them? If he missed his last 2. So there I can understand the execution of it. I think that is something that Lucca should have called a team meeting, explained, look, you've been seeing me in training, I can fucking hit them, this guy can't hit them, let me be on penalty duties. That is the only way to handle that situation.
That's true.
But he's just, that was marketing at its finest as well, right?
You know who shares the same sentiment? Udinese's owner, Gianpaolo Pozzo, because he was asked about it and he said that some mistakes can be forgiven if a player has the right mindset. From which I understand, like, the way he handled it afterwards was pretty well handled. The fact that he shook hands with everyone, he didn't sulk. I mean, he threw a tantrum on the pitch, but it didn't go beyond that.
Yeah.
So
he
apologized.
For it, how funny.
Yeah, he apologized to the fans and to his teammates. And it could also be the case, as you correctly said, bro, that he actually wanted to take it for the team more than for himself, because he wasn't confident that his teammate would score and he was confident that he would. I highly doubt that, and I think it was all about him. But
I think both. I think he'll use both when he's arguing.
Of course
when he's
he will.
Making his point, he's
not going to say, no, I wanted 10 goals.
But imagine that you're great at hitting penalties and there's some, just because this guy is the captain. Is he the captain? Yes, he is the captain. Yeah. But he's missing his penalties. He's not scoring them. Why is he going to stay on penalties? It's like when Lautaro was on pens at Inter, and when Zlatan was on pens for Milan, they just kept on missing penalty after penalty. It doesn't make sense. This was an important game against Lecce, who were hungry for a win. It was in Lecce Stadium, so a very intimidating atmosphere as well. And I feel like at least the mental strength that Lucca showed to actually bury that penalty was great. And I think, as much as he was wrong to do that, he showed a lot of character, he showed a lot of bravery, and he showed balls, which I wasn't sure that when I described Lucca, balls weren't one of the first things I'd mention, but now it is.
Excellent.
So as a fan of football, you were dying for him today. You're like, yes, Lucca, because you have him on
fantasy football. In fact, I did the tip top, his celebration with the song that he had gotten a lot of shit for posting on his Instagram. Faccio il tip top dentro casa mia, no? As they say, or some shit like that.
Just so you know, 10 minutes to go.
10 minutes to go. Let's dedicate some time to
Excellent.
some questions. Firstly, let's take Mark's question, because Mark on Instagram hit us up last week with a question while we were recording. So unfortunate. So we could not answer it. Shout out, Mark. Here we are right now answering your question, even though, to be honest, I don't really have an answer. He says, hey guys, I may have a random question which does not really include Serie A, but
Break up with her.
but my club in Germany got Marcel Klose as a technical director, which he was at Genoa a few years ago as well. Wondered if you guys have an opinion about him, because us Germans cannot really say what we are up for with him now. He also says, as I already mentioned earlier, keep going with your pod. Absolutely love to hear it, and it brings a smile to my face every week.
Amazing.
I'm so happy to hear that. Really appreciate that, bro. So Marcel Klose wasn't super high profile when he was at Genoa. He was involved, of course, in the scouting and the technical development of the club, and during quite a chaotic period of Genoa, which isn't unusual for them. All I know is that his background suggests a strong focus on data-driven recruitment and youth development. And I can't really tell you much more than that. I'm not sure if he was responsible solely for bringing in certain players, but they had a moment where the recruitment was pretty good. In fact, they brought in the likes of, I believe, Messias?
I mean, they brought in Messias, they brought in Malinovsky, they brought in Goodmanson, they brought in Retegui. I'm not sure how much of those he was responsible for, because I don't follow technical directors and club structures, so on and so forth, that much, especially of the minnow sides, unfortunately. Maybe I should know more of that. But according to the players that they have brought in, it seems like he did a fantastic job. Goodmanson, to Fiorentina. Retegui, current top scorer. Malinovsky, unfortunately, had a devastating injury, which has kept him out, but otherwise he's a top player. And it was a good opportunity
Even
to bring him
Dragusin
in from
Juve
Marseille.
was good business.
Dragusin was good business. He built a nice little team for Genoa, so maybe that's what you can expect, that you might see players you've never heard of before, or good opportunities that will actually go through with him. He's also brought in, for example, Balotelli. So he doesn't always kind of get it right. But best of luck. I'm sorry we can't give you a better answer than that. But from what we've seen, the recruitment has been very strong. They also brought in Vitinha, for example. It was a good opportunity, and they brought him in.
Let us know how he does at FC.
Kaiserslautern, no? Is that... No. Kaiserslautern.
I don't know.
Kaiserslautern.
I don't know how to pronounce it.
Is it?
FCK Lautern is what I see over here. So, how do you say Forza in German?
Sorry, do I look German? It is Kaiserslautern.
It is. That sounds hilarious. It sounds like a drink.
Kaiserslautern. Yes.
Okay, cool. Yes. Schnell Kaiserslautern.
How do you say come on in German?
Let's see.
No way is that. Komm schon.
Komm schon.
Los auf geht's. Or literally march on. March on or komm schon. Komm schon. Kaiserslautern. Komm schon.
Yes. Poor Sean.
Next.
Gigi. on Instagram asks, how long until Nesta gets sacked again and who comes in?
I think they made their bed and I think they're going to sleep in it now. If they sack him again, it's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. I wonder if he wants to stay or if he was just obligated to return to the club because he was still under contract. He appointed just 7 weeks after sacking him. His original contract.
What are you looking for?
I'm looking to see how long he had signed for initially.
That's transfer market, baby.
I think that, to be honest, the season in Serie B for Nesta could be career defining for him.
Well, he was already there at Reggiana last season and he didn't
do very well, but
great.
I think before maybe coaching at this level, it would be wise, to spend some time in the lower leagues, I think, personally.
Well, the details, by the way, haven't been disclosed of his reappointment. His originally he was signed on a 1-year contract only.
Okay. So probably I don't think we'll be seeing him coaching next season, no. Regarding who they can hire, I think it will be one of the usual Serie B guys,
Potentially.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
But yes, the next question is from Greta Schomper, who asks, where's Freddy? Freddy, for those of you who do not know, is my cat. We had an episode, I think it was a transfer episode where he was in the studio, but he hasn't been in the studio since because that entire episode, he was chewing the wire connected to my phone.
Yeah. We won't be doing that again. This was also his bedroom while he was still integrating with the other. We weren't going to let him integrate directly with Maya, especially because Maya's the queen of the house.
Exactly.
But a little show and tell every now and then would be quite cute.
Yeah, it's true. We should bring him on. Michele asks, do you guys think Frosinone and Salernitana will pull off back-to-back relegations, and if not, which one survives? Unfortunately, it's not looking good for them. I was taking a look at the table. I can't say I've been following Serie B this season. I haven't had much time, unfortunately. I will follow it more closely once the playoffs start. It's one of my favorite parts of the season. Currently, Salernitana are in 18th with 26 points. Frosinone are in 19th with 24 points. Südtirol are in 17th with 29 points, and they were actually in the playoffs last season as well. So it's crazy how the dynamics change in Serie B.
This season we're actually seeing a bit of a cut-off, by the way, from 3rd to 4th, which is refreshing. That's not typically the case. Sassuolo are running away with it on 62 points, Pisa on 57, and then Spezia on 50. And then there's Catanzaro, Cremonese, Juve Stabia, and Bari, who will be and Cesena, who will be looking to get themselves in the picture. Down at the bottom, Cosenza 21 points, Frosinone 24, Salernitana 26. Frosinone, I wouldn't be surprised if it happens because, like we said, even when they were up at Serie A, it was a bunch of loaned players that they brought in, and there was a lack of talent which they can grow and hone and develop and actually build a certain identity with. That is often a strategy that doesn't get you very far. So nice, you had your season in Serie A. They were very entertaining to watch. But if I had to put my money on it happening to one of them, I think Salernitana, we've seen them turn things around and survive.
Absolutely.
Frosinone, I think they are capable of the double relegation.
And Salernitana have some good players on their team still that stayed over from last season. I think they'll be fine. And even they don't concede a crazy amount of goals. Their problem has been scoring. So I think that they will get their shit together. Their team will come good towards the end when the going gets tough, the tough get going.
Exactly.
And the experienced get going as well.
Yeah, we hope so at least because we love Salernitana.
We love Salernitana, yes. We would hate to see them going down.
Yeah.
Okay, another question. So this is from Max on Instagram. He asks, while Como are obviously in fantastic form and have made it known that they want to join the upper half of the table soon, do they actually have the ability to achieve this goal within the time frame they want to? With the goal of rapid success, talents like Nico Paz and Dia would be highly sought after, if not bought back immediately, such as Paz with Real Madrid, thus hindering Como's ability to achieve great success in such a quick amount of time. Perhaps I'm being overly pessimistic, but I think Como should be more realistic about their aim in becoming a mid-table team rather than setting their sights on such high results so quickly.
So, the great question, because he's absolutely right. Inter are knocking for Nico Paz, and I'm sure everyone's looking at Thiaw at the moment, and Fadera, and Kakeret, and all of these guys who are having a fantastic season. If you look at the way Fabregas spoke to his team after the game, it's like, this is only the beginning. And he's not talking about the season. He's talking about the project, the entire project for the team. I think with him being involved in the club from a director point of view and not just as a manager, I think that his selling point to the players is much stronger because he has the clear vision in mind. Look what we're doing. Look what we're bringing in. I don't think it is devastating if some of these players leave because they have budget and they have a good vision. If they lose Nico Paz, they can bring in someone to replace him. They bid 50 million for Theo Hernandez. If they are smart and they reinvest the money properly, I think they can replace the players adequately. And I also think that you'd be surprised at how a lot of the players would want to actually stay on, because this project is amazing. The city is beautiful. Who doesn't want to play for someone like Fabregas in a league like Serie A? Obviously, the buyback of Paz is shitty, but hey, they'll do good business. Like I said,
shitty?
they're offering 50 million for players.
It's shitty, yes, because obviously they can't keep a player like Nico Paz. However, Como have shown that they can be trusted when it comes to the development of very exciting talents.
Yep.
So I wouldn't be surprised now if other teams get inspired to send their creative offensive talents to Como to thrive, because they know there's a good setup over there with Fabregas.
Great point.
And many players who are thriving, right? Plus the players they have bought, granted they spent a lot, but they've hit the ground running more often than not. So they do have some upside and potential growth when it comes to revenue and sales. I think that they are moving very smart, and I think maybe, you aim high, you aim for top 4, you get top 8. You know what I mean?
That's it.
So I think that them aiming high just means that they want to be Serie A staples, and potentially in the future, of course, not potentially, their goal in the future is to aim for European competition.
Yep, absolutely.
And they look like a very exciting
Even
side.
though Fabregas shuts it down, now they ask Fabregas, he's like, please don't put pressure on us. Like we're doing what we do. Slow and steady wins the race.
Nice. Adam asks, who are the top 5 Serie B players that deserve a big move to Serie A, and to which teams? So, of course, there's
The Espositos.
the entire Sassuolo squad is stacked. I think they could all cope in Serie A.
Berardi,
There's Berardi and
Lauriente,
Lauriente especially.
Torstvedt,
Exactly. Yes,
etc.
those guys for sure. I think the Espositos are ready. Salvatore and Francesco. I think Gemello, is it?
Gemello.
He's very good. Palumbo's having a good season.
Palumbo's having a great season. I'm really liking him. As in, again, I'm not watching that much, but he's been great.
Absolutely, and Rrahmani as well has been decent. He had a bit of injuries, I think, recently.
He had a few short-term injuries, which are quite unsettling, but he's still a great talent. We'll see him in Serie A.
Regarding who they go to, whoever survives could definitely use them. I mean, I don't think any of these guys will potentially be picked up by a massive team. None of them are particularly
apart from the
young.
Sassuolo ones.
Of course, the Sassuolo ones, exactly. And I think like if the Esposito brothers go up, it will be to any minnow side or a team that also gets promoted. Yeah. Okay. Cesco asked something. How much time do we have left?
Well, we're done.
We're done?
It's 2 hours.
Okay. Let's just see what... I think we've already answered this question indirectly anyway. Cesco says, do you think Roma will get European football next year? Or will they flop, considering that these are the fixtures at the end? And he just mentions that they play Juve, Lazio, Hellas, Inter, Fiorentina, Atalanta, Milan and Torino to end the season.
I think a lot of those fixtures are the reason they get Europe.
Ooh.
So it's a great question, and it's very, very tough for Roma. However, with the way that they've looked, them getting points against Lazio in that direct 6-pointer, same as Fiorentina and that direct 6-pointer, and same as against Milan, that's another direct 6-pointer. And I think they are stronger than a lot of these teams are at the moment, especially with the current run of form. And if they win a bunch of those 6-pointers, then they have a great opportunity. What they have to do, their best to do, is obviously not lose to the likes of Inter and Juve, and Atalanta, which is tough. But I think they can get some great results over there.
They're definitely in the running. Do I think they'll get European football?
I think they do, bro. I think they do. I think the way it will
Their
go...
form is definitely excellent. Huh?
Inter, Napoli, Atalanta, Juve to get top 4, Lazio, Roma to get 5th and 6th, I think. If I had to
and then 7th.
Bet now, Milan.
Not Bologna.
Maybe.
Thank you very much, guys.
How abrupt.
Yes.
We'll be back next week, guys. We'll have to record early because next week I'm going to Bratislava. By
yes.
the way.
Weirdo.
So we'll have to record on Tuesday, of course. We're gonna go watch Coppa Italia now, obviously, while editing the podcast. Keep your eyes peeled, obviously, because we'll have the new segment coming out as well by Gian Ilya. So it's gonna be very exciting. We'll catch you all next week. And remember, today, Coppa Italia, tomorrow, Coppa Italia, and the following day, on my birthday, there's also Bologna Milan. So enjoy a fabulous week of football, guys, and we'll see you next week. Ciao, ciao.
If you like Serie A or have ever liked it in the past, it's a good opportunity for you to listen once a week and you'll get filled in.
In the football weekend, that's like the main dish. But then a few days later, you drop your episode and that's like the dessert. And the dessert is just perfect.
It's good, the cake.
It makes it feel like we're all sitting in a room together, just BSing with each other.
The atmosphere is fantastic.
I promise nobody will ask you to send boob pics.
Sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit.
I love how you go into so much detail and show so much passion towards each and every team. Literally, no team is left undiscussed.
When I listen to you, it's like I'm talking to you in a pub. It's like I'm chatting to a friend and you're chatting to me.